The chamber still echoed with the soft melody from the music box. The alien rulers looked on in stunned silence, unsure how to react. Some whispered, some stared, but none spoke. The Veery Queen, Sarilith, held the small box as if it were heavier than any starship she had ever commanded. Elias Ward stepped back respectfully, leaving the space between them. He watched her carefully. He had given many orders in his life, led crews into battle, and faced threats from creatures that could destroy a planet. Yet he had never felt a moment as delicate and uncertain as this. The Queen's eyes did not leave the box. Her advisors murmured warnings, reminding her that humans were clever and unpredictable, and no human gesture was ever truly innocent. But Sarilith ignored them. She studied the box with curiosity she had not felt in centuries. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was softer than before, though it still carried authority. "Human, why do you give me this? I am not a child. I am not someone who sleeps to this music." Elias shook his head slowly. "You are more than that, Majesty. I do not offer this to make you feel like a child. I offer it because it reminds you of what is worth protecting. Not worlds, not fleets, not titles, but peace, even if it lasts for only a moment." The Queen tilted her head, studying him as if trying to see his soul. Peace. A human gift to a queen who has spent centuries at war, managing empires and watching rivals strike at her borders. Why should this matter to me? "Because, Majesty," Elias said quietly, "sometimes the smallest things are the strongest. A song, a story, a memory. They remind us what we fight for. They are worth more than any weapon." Sarilith's glowing eyes narrowed slightly. No one had spoken to her like this before. Diplomats, soldiers, and even spies had tried to flatter, intimidate, or bribe her. None had spoken with honesty or humility. Elias's words carried neither fear nor flattery, only sincerity. The Queen lifted the lid of the music box once more. The soft melody filled the room again. The aliens around them shifted nervously. Some felt embarrassed that they could not understand this simple gesture. Others felt anger. How could such a small human earn the attention of a ruler of their power? The melody ended. Sarilith remained silent. Elias waited, unsure if he had made a mistake. Yet he could see it. A shadow of emotion passed across her face, fleeting but undeniable. She was moved, though she did not yet understand why. "Human," she said finally, "you offer me something I cannot wear, cannot display, and cannot trade. You offer meaning." Elias nodded. "Yes, Majesty, and it is not for me to decide what it means to you. Only you can know that." A pause fell over the chamber. Even the Queen's guards, trained to react instantly to threats, dared not move. The human before them had given a gift that defied expectations, something intangible, something that could not be measured in numbers, ships, or territory. Some of the Queen's advisors whispered behind her throne, "This is foolish. A human cannot understand power. They are too small." Another replied, "Perhaps, but perhaps the Queen sees something they cannot." Sarilith held the box close to her chest. She remembered moments from long ago, days before she became queen, when life was simpler. There were no wars, no politics, no endless responsibilities. Just warmth, laughter, and the quiet moments she had forgotten. The music box stirred memories she thought were lost. For the first time in many cycles, she allowed herself to feel something other than duty or calculation. She felt the curiosity of a person, not a ruler. Elias watched her closely, careful not to intrude. He had learned long ago that humans, like all beings, showed their true strength not by force but by understanding. That was why he had chosen this gesture. Not wealth, not weapons, not words of grandeur. Just a music box. The Queen opened it once more. This time she turned to her advisors. "You see this human gift. It carries no threat, no wealth, no claim. Yet it makes me consider what we protect and why we protect it." The advisors exchanged uneasy glances. None had heard the Queen speak in this way for centuries. A subtle change was occurring, one that could not be stopped by orders or warnings. Over the next hours, the Queen began asking questions. She asked Elias about the music, about Earth, about humans who made such things. He explained simply, humans believed that small acts could matter, that every choice shaped the future, and that kindness and courage were just as powerful as fleets or weapons. Sarilith listened carefully. She asked no judgmental questions. She did not criticize. She only listened. And in listening, she began to understand that humans were unlike any species she had encountered. Unpredictable, yes, but also capable of great empathy, patience, and strength in ways the galaxy often overlooked. Word of the gift spread quickly. Some aliens mocked it, calling it trivial, even foolish. Others watched silently, unsure how the Queen would respond. Elias's gesture had done something unexpected. It had forced every species in the council to notice the humans, not for their weapons or fleets, but for their heart and spirit. By the end of the day, the Queen kept the music box with her. She did not say she was moved, nor did she smile openly, but she had placed it near her throne, a small reminder of something she had long forgotten: the value of simplicity, of memory, of meaning beyond power. Elias left the chamber quietly, knowing his gesture had done what words alone could not. Humanity had begun to make its mark on the galaxy, not with force but with a gift, a simple human gift that even a queen could not ignore. And somewhere deep inside, the Veyari Queen Sarilith began to wonder if perhaps humans, in their strange, quiet way, carried a strength greater than any warship or empire. The stars of the galaxy glittered like endless lanterns, and within them rested the heart of unity, the Galactic Council Station. It was not a single structure, but a vast ring city that circled a star, home to hundreds of embassies, meeting halls, and fleets from every known species. Here, the oldest and greatest civilizations decided the fate of billions. For many years, humans were not part of this place. They were considered young, reckless, and still finding their place among the stars. But after proving themselves in exploration and in survival, Earth was finally invited to stand among the council. To many alien leaders, this was only symbolic. To humans, it was a chance to show what they were made of. Among the human representatives was Captain Elias Ward, a man who had served in Earth's defense fleets, but was chosen not for his rank, but for his character. He carried himself with calm strength, the kind that came not from shouting orders, but from making choices when everything seemed impossible. The first day of the summit was grander than anything Elias had seen. Massive banners of alien empires hung in the vast chamber, and the leaders of the galaxy sat in their thrones of metal, crystal, and light. Each ruler shone with power, but one stood above them all, the Veyari Queen Sarilith. Her empire stretched across 300 star systems. Her fleets were unmatched, her soldiers disciplined, and her wisdom feared as much as respected. She sat upon a throne of living metal that pulsed with faint light, her tall form wrapped in shimmering armor that seemed more ceremonial than practical. A crown of sharp silver curved above her head, and her eyes glowed like burning sapphire. To many, she was untouchable. To some, she was terrifying. When the humans entered the chamber, many alien voices whispered. Some scoffed at their simple uniforms and small escort. Others laughed quietly, calling humans children of the stars, who thought themselves important. Elias ignored them. He had expected as much. But what caught his eye was the Queen herself. Unlike the other rulers who sneered or ignored the humans, she studied them with cold silence. Elias could not tell if she thought of them as threats, toys, or simply irrelevant. The speeches began. One by one, leaders declared their positions on trade, on borders, on disputes that stretched across galaxies. Elias listened, though much of it was theater. Alliances spoken of with honeyed words, rivalries hidden behind polite threats. When it came time for the humans to speak, their ambassador gave a short, careful statement. Earth came not to rule, but to share, not to conquer, but to learn. The words were correct, diplomatic, and safe. But Elias noticed the queen did not change her expression. She had heard thousands of such promises. To her, they were meaningless. After the gathering ended, many leaders went to their private halls to celebrate or negotiate. Elias, however, lingered. He had watched the queen, and he had seen something most had not: a shadow behind her eyes. She had power, yes, but she also carried the weight of it. He returned to his quarters, thinking. Humans could not impress the galaxy with fleets or riches. They had only their spirit, their strange way of seeing meaning in small things. And so, Elias made a choice. The next day, during a less formal gathering, Elias approached the queen's court. Her guards stiffened, their tall frames bristling with weapons, but he did not carry a weapon or armor. Instead, he carried a small box, carved from dark wood, polished by hand until it gleamed softly under the alien lights. The queen tilted, her head. "Human," she said, her voice sharp, layered with echoes as if more than one spoke through her. "Why do you come before me without summons?" Elias bowed slightly, careful not to insult her culture, but not groveling either. "I come not as a soldier or diplomat, but as one who wishes to offer respect." Murmurs filled the chamber who did brought jewels. The music box sat near the throne of Queen Sarilith, its simple melody no longer just a sound. It had become a quiet symbol. The Veyari Empire had never seen its ruler behave in such a way. Courtiers whispered behind closed doors, and advisors exchanged anxious glances. "This is unusual," said one of the queen's counselors, a sharp-eyed strategist named Lyris. "Your Majesty, the humans are clever but small. This gift, it changes nothing." The queen's glowing eyes remained on the box. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "but sometimes the smallest things shift what we see. Sometimes we need to remember what matters, not what frightens us." Lyris frowned. "Remember? Majesty, you command hundreds of systems. You rule armies that could crush worlds. A music box will not change the balance of power." Sarilith's expression did not change, but her thoughts were elsewhere. She replayed, the human's words in her mind. "The smallest things are the strongest. A song, a story, a memory. They remind us what we fight for." She had spent centuries surrounded by politics, strategy, and war, yet a human's simple gesture reminded her of something she had almost forgotten. Her own life before she became queen, the quiet moments, when she was not a ruler but simply herself. Meanwhile, the news of the gift spread throughout the Veyari Empire. Soldiers returning from distant star systems shared rumors of the strange human who had dared approach the queen. Merchants spoke of it in trade stations. Even young cadets training in the academies wondered aloud why the queen had not rejected the gift, as protocol demanded. Some were angry. A human dares to enter the chamber of the queen and offer a mere trinket? What arrogance! Others were curious. But she kept it. She listened. She even seemed to think. That is unlike our queen. Perhaps these humans are different than we believed. The ripple spread beyond the empire. News of the human gift reached rival species, some of whom had always dismissed Earth as insignificant. Some laughed. Only humans would think a box of music could impress a queen. Others frowned. They had seen how Sarilith's demeanor had shifted. If the humans had truly touched her mind, even a little, it could mean something more dangerous than any fleet. Back in the council chambers, Queen Sarilith sat in private, opening the box again. The melody played, filling the room with soft, gentle tones. She traced the carvings on the wooden surface, symbols she could not read but felt connected to in some way. They reminded her of the universality of life, the patterns, the care, the thought behind simple acts. Her personal aides watched silently. None dared interrupt. They had spent their lives managing her, guiding her, warning her of threats. Yet here she sat, lost in thought over a gift from a tiny species they had, all considered unimportant. Sarilith's mind wandered to the humans themselves. Elias Ward, the one who had given the gift. had stood before her without pride or fear, without flattery or demand. He had spoken with honesty. His gesture had no hidden meaning, no demand for reward, no threat of conquest. It was pure. 4. The queen, who had long measured every interaction by strategy, advantage, and survival, this was unsettling. She felt a stir of something she had not recognized for cycles: curiosity without caution, trust without calculation, and respect without fear. Meanwhile, in the human delegation, Elias watched the queen carefully from a distance. He noticed small changes: the tilt of her head when she spoke of the gift, the softening of her voice when she asked about Earth, the way she lingered on the memory of the music box instead of rushing back to duties. Humans had always relied on observation, on reading subtleties, and now he could see that the queen herself was being quietly changed by his simple act. Within the Veyari Empire, the ripple became harder to ignore. Soldiers whispered of how the queen spent hours alone, listening to music instead of reviewing battle reports. Advisors debated whether to allow this distraction or force her back to the routines of power. Merchants and citizens speculated, asking, "Has the human touched something in her mind? Something we cannot predict?" Even among the other alien rulers, the story of the gift traveled quickly. Some mocked it, thinking it foolish. A trinket of wood and sound, it cannot change a galaxy, they said. Yet a few paused. They had seen Seralith's reaction in the council chambers. Even a hint of change in the Veyari Queen's focus could shift alliances, strategies, and loyalties. Back in her private chamber, Seralith turned the key of the music box again. The melody filled the room with its quiet warmth. She closed her eyes and imagined the human who had given it. She imagined Earth, a small blue planet spinning in the darkness, full of people who found courage in simplicity, hope in small things, and meaning in memory. A thought formed in her mind. A dangerous, fascinating thought. What if humans were more than they seemed? What if their strength lay not in their fleets or weapons, but in something subtler, something she had never experienced in all her centuries of rule? For the first time in her life, she allowed herself a question without an answer. Could a species so small, so young, truly carry a strength that even the Veyari Empire might not understand? She placed the music box beside her throne, not as a toy, not as a curiosity, but as a reminder. A reminder that the galaxy was wider, deeper, and far more unpredictable than she had imagined. Outside her chamber, her advisors argued, whispered, and predicted outcomes. They could not see what she saw. They could not feel what she felt. Only, she understood the quiet truth. The human gift was more powerful than anyone realized. And somewhere, across the vast corridors of the council station, Elias smiled quietly. He had not intended to impress, to intimidate, or to change history. He had only wanted to offer something simple. Yet already, ripples of curiosity, doubt, and wonder were spreading through the galaxy, starting with a queen who had never been moved by anything before. The human gift, small and fragile, had begun to reshape the empire from within. Days passed since the music box had been placed near Queen Seralith's throne. The palace, usually a place of strict order and endless duties, felt subtly different. The queen moved with her usual precision, but her thoughts often drifted to the small wooden box and to the human who had given it. Captain Elias Ward continued his duties as Earth's representative at the Galactic Council, attending meetings, observing debates, and noting every shift in the queen's demeanor. He was careful to remain respectful, never overstepping, yet he could feel that the queen was becoming more receptive to his presence. It began with questions. At first, she asked about Earth in general, the planet's history, its people, and its strange customs. She had advisors to manage the usual affairs of state, yet she spent hours listening to Elias speak. Unlike other rulers who demanded information for strategy or politics, she asked simply because she wanted to know. "On your planet," Seralith said one afternoon, her glowing eyes fixed on him, "you create these things, songs, stories, art. You do this even in times of struggle? Even when your world is at risk? Elias nodded. Yes, Majesty. Humans believe that hope is not only for the strong but for everyone. Even in the darkest times, we make small things that remind us of what is important. The Queen leaned back, turning the music box in her hands. She had begun to notice the little details, how the sound lingered in the air, how each note seemed to carry a memory, a story. And you believe a simple gesture, a song, can influence events? She asked. It can, Elias said quietly. Not always in the way you expect, but it changes people, sometimes more than weapons, than fleets, than power. Sarilith considered his words carefully. Her advisors would have laughed at such a notion, but she did not. Instead, she found herself thinking about her empire, her people, and the countless decisions she had made over the centuries. Had she been too focused on strategy, on displays of strength? Could there be value in simplicity, in acts that were not calculated for gain or control? In the days that followed, their conversations grew longer. Sometimes they spoke formally, as queen and representative. Other times they simply shared stories. Elias described human traditions, festivals, and moments of bravery. The queen listened, asking questions not out of curiosity for political advantage but out of genuine interest. Her advisors noticed the change. Whispers spread through the palace halls. The queen speaks too much with the human, one said. It is dangerous, they are unpredictable. What are they teaching her? Another advisor replied, perhaps we cannot predict what she is learning. Perhaps we are witnessing something new. Sarilith ignored them. She had begun to value Elias's perspective. He was patient, honest, and unafraid to speak of humanity's strengths and weaknesses. In him she saw something rare in the galaxy, a willingness to see others as equals, to understand without judgment. One evening, in a private chamber lit by soft ambient lights, Sarilith spoke more openly than she had ever done in centuries. I have spent cycles ruling, defending, conquering. I have never been moved by gifts, flattery, or threats. Yet, your simple music box, your gesture, has made me pause. Why? Elias remained calm. Because it comes from a place that cannot be measured by power or conquest. It comes from a human heart. Not a soldier, not a ruler, just a person. She considered this. Perhaps that is what I have been missing. I have ruled empires, commanded fleets, yet I have rarely encountered someone who Giveon. Perhaps this is why the peace of the Galactic Council was fragile. Alliances were tested daily, and rival species watched humanity closely, still unsure of its true power. For some, the gift given by Captain Elias Ward to Queen Sarilith was a sign of weakness. For others, it was a warning. They had seen the Queen pause, reflect, and even smile faintly at something so small. It was in this atmosphere of uncertainty that the hostile coalition of the Korath and Xylan empires made their move. They viewed humanity as expendable, young, and untested. Their fleets gathered at the outskirts of human-controlled space, launching attacks on mining colonies, research stations, and trade convoys. The strikes were calculated to cause fear, disruption, and doubt in the council. Back at the Vayari Empire, Queen Sarilith received news of the attacks. Her advisors urged caution. Majesty, the humans are too weak. If we intervene, we risk provoking these empires. Let them face the consequences. But Sarilith's thoughts were clear. The music box had reminded her that strength was not measured by fleets alone. The courage, creativity, and will of a people mattered as much as weapons. She had seen humanity's spirit in Captain Elias Ward and his delegation. Their small acts carried weight. And now, those acts needed defending. We will intervene, she declared, her voice firm. Prepare the fleet. We will stand with humanity. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Many aliens had not expected the Queen to make such a choice. To risk her empire, her fleets, her people, for a human species considered minor by most? It was unprecedented. Elias Ward received the Queen's message with both caution and hope. He knew the Veyari Empire was a powerhouse, but no alliance was without risk. Still, humanity's survival now depended on trust. Trust in a queen who had begun to see their worth in ways the galaxy often ignored. The first battles were tense. Human fleets, smaller and less advanced than most alien armadas, struggled against the Korath and Xylan forces. Yet their tactics were unpredictable, clever, and adaptive. They did not rely solely on firepower. They used ingenuity, terrain, and even deception to survive. And then the Veyari fleets arrived. Ships of immense size, bristling with weapons and shields, moved with precision and authority. The sudden appearance of Seralith's armada shifted the balance. The coalition fleets hesitated, unsure of how to respond to the unexpected reinforcement. Within the council station, other rulers watched the events unfold in disbelief. Many had underestimated humanity, believing that their small size and simple technology would make them easy targets. Yet the humans' resilience, combined with the Queen's intervention, changed everything. During a pause in the battle, Seralith contacted Elias directly. "Human," she said through secure communication, "I see now what your people carry. It is not your ships or weapons that make you strong. It is your will, your courage, and your willingness to face impossible odds." Elias replied, "Majesty, we only survive because we must. We do not fight for glory. We fight because we have to protect those who cannot protect themselves." A brief silence followed. In that silence, the Queen understood something profound. This was why humans mattered. Their strength was not in domination but in defense, not in conquest but in protection. It was a quality that many empires had forgotten. The battle resumed with intensity. Human pilots coordinated with Veyari admirals, sharing strategies and improvising maneuvers on the fly. The coalition fleets, despite their numbers, struggled against this unexpected coordination. Every human act of bravery inspired Veyari soldiers. Every human innovation in strategy caught the enemy off guard. In one critical moment, a human cruiser was surrounded and damaged, its systems failing. Elias, aboard another ship, directed a daring rescue, guiding the crew through debris and enemy fire. When the Veyari fleet arrived, they cleared the path with overwhelming precision, saving the human vessel. Across the galaxy, the Council watched in shock. The human fleet, once seen as weak and expendable, had become a symbol of resilience. And the Queen, who had chosen to stand with them, had demonstrated that alliances were more than contracts. They were choices born of respect and understanding. As the last of the Korath and Xylan ships retreated, a cautious calm returned. The humans had survived, battered but unbroken. The Veyari Empire had proven its loyalty and strength, and the ripple of the music box, of a simple human gift, had grown into a wave of influence no one had anticipated. Back on the Veyari flagship, Queen Seralith stood before the small wooden box. Its melody played faintly, but its meaning resonated louder than any battle cries. "You humans," she said softly, almost to herself, "carry more power than many rulers in this galaxy. Not in fleets, not in weapons, but in the hearts of your people." Elias, observing from his ship, felt a quiet satisfaction. He had offered a gift with no expectation, yet it had changed a queen, inspired an empire, and reminded the galaxy that strength could take many forms. And in that moment, the humans realized something extraordinary. They were no longer just a young species in a vast galaxy. They were a people whose courage, ingenuity, and spirit could influence even the mightiest of rulers. The Council would never see humanity the same way again. The battle was over. Smoke and debris drifted across the void, but humanity had survived. The Korath and Xylan fleets had retreated, unable to defeat the combined forces of human ingenuity and the Veyari Empire's overwhelming power. For the first time in galactic memory, the Council saw humans not as small, expendable newcomers, but as a species whose courage and resourcefulness could shape events on a massive scale. Captain Elias Ward watched the aftermath from his command ship. Systems were damaged, crews exhausted, but morale was high. Human survivors worked alongside Veyari crews, sharing repairs, rations, and stories of bravery. The Queen's decision to stand with humanity had not only saved colonies and fleets, it had forged a bond that no rival could break. Across the galaxy, news of the Queen's intervention spread like wildfire. Alien civilizations whispered in astonishment, some in admiration, others in fear. A young species, once dismissed as weak, had earned the respect of one of the most powerful rulers in existence, and the Queen herself had become a symbol of something the galaxy had rarely seen, a leader who could recognize and honor the strength of another species without pride, greed, or calculation. Queen Sarilith returned to her flagship, where the music box sat quietly on a pedestal near her throne. She opened it, letting the familiar melody fill the room. This time she did not only hear the song, she felt it, the rhythm of life, the heartbeat of humanity, their courage, their hope. She thought of Captain Elias Ward, of his sincerity, and of all the humans who had fought alongside her fleets. "I have seen strength," she said softly, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Not in fleets, not in weapons, not in titles, but in their hearts. In their ability to act with courage, to risk everything to protect others, and to find meaning in the smallest of things." Elias entered the chamber, careful to show respect. "Majesty," he said, bowing lightly, "your presence with us changed everything. Humanity would not have survived without you." Sarilith regarded him with a calm yet powerful gaze. "It was not only my presence," she said. "It was your people's spirit, your courage, and yes, even your gift." A simple gesture, small and fragile, reminded me of something I had forgotten, that there is power in hope, in memory, and in the bonds we choose to honor. Elias smiled, quietly. He had never expected that a single human gift would leave such an impression on a queen of her stature, yet it had. And now, humanity had left its mark. Not through dominance, but through the qualities that defined them: empathy, courage, and ingenuity. The council convened again, this time to discuss the aftermath of the conflict. Many species, previously dismissive of humans, now regarded them with new respect. Leaders who had once laughed at their small fleets in simple ways now took careful note of their strategies and decisions. The young species from Earth had proven that they could survive, adapt, and inspire even the most powerful rulers in the galaxy. Sarilith's voice resonated through the chamber as she addressed the council. "The galaxy measures strength by fleets, armies, and power. Humanity reminds us that strength is also measured in courage, resilience, and hope. We cannot ignore what they represent. Their legacy is not in conquest, but in the heart of their people." A hush fell over the assembly. The words were simple, yet they carried weight beyond measurement. Aliens from all corners of the council understood, in that moment, that humanity's legacy had begun. Later on Earth, preparations were made to welcome the Queen herself. Elias guided her through the human cities, introducing her to their culture, their families, their traditions. She walked among them, observing the ordinary acts of humanity, the laughter of children, the kindness of strangers, the quiet strength of everyday life. She had commanded fleets that could destroy worlds, yet here, she learned something even greater: the strength that came not from domination, but from unity, understanding, and hope. Before she departed, Elias presented her with another gift. This one was a book, simple and humble, filled with stories written by humans across centuries. Tales of courage, love, perseverance, and hope. The Queen accepted it silently, her eyes glinting with thought. She understood now what the music box had begun to teach her. You,